Hello,
Hello, everyone.
welcome back. We have a very exciting stream today. Um, we're going to be talking about something we've been working very hard on for the last couple months um, with you guys, actually, with a lot of the people in our Discord and our customers. We'll be talking about the new UI today, which I'm super excited for. I think everyone is very excited for this.
Yes, for sure.
Um, yeah, and we'll be talking about how we basically taken all your feedback and put all that into a more streamlined user interface that will kind of will over time we'll build it to basically it's built around your workflow and um, we'll also be talking about future features and how we'll just make printers easier to use and easier to manage. But I think before we jump in, we'll just do introductions again. I'm Mateo. I'm one of the co-founders of 3DQ. I'm joined by Leah on screen.
Yes, and I'm one of the interns, and I've been here for, I guess, a month now, and I have been working on one of the new features in a later version of the new UI, so that'll be interesting to see what we have now and what we're working towards.
And then, of course, behind the camera, Stephen, long time. He's been with us for a while. Well, a long time for a startup. He's been with us for over a year now. A year and a half, actually.
Yeah, on the Quinly lead, um, and I'm enjoying being behind the camera, reading up chat, keeping things going.
Yeah, so definitely post comments in chat. Steven's always watching and he'll toss questions to us and we'll be asking you questions. Um, yeah, we're on, Google and Twitch, so just sign in. Feel free to talk in chat. We'll respond live. But I guess why don't we get into what the actual stream is about? And that is, we have spent the last couple months rebuilding and revamping the UI. So today we'll just be going through the new workflow that we've constructed with the help of you guys. And we'll also be talking about how this interface is built to help you run actual production on your printers, not just, prototype things on it once in a while. And I think one of the interesting things that will be a bit of a common theme is just how much time is actually lost interfacing with your printer. So we've already been talking about time lost removing your parts, but when you have an automated machine, we actually learned a lot of time gets lost just managing files, setting up your printer and doing that kind of thing. So we've started integrating that and pulling that into this new UI, which we'll talk through. Yeah, so this update, I should also mention, is part of the basic Quinly software. So that is free for everyone. With every Quinly kit, you get a lifetime key. And we'll be talking about the basic features, and then we'll also be talking about future, more professional features, because I think our goal is to make manufacturing accessible to anyone, and and all of these features that we'll be talking about today will be in basic, and then we'll talk about future things for when you start scaling up to more and more printers as well. For example, we have in-house, we've got 50 Ender 3s that are all outfitted with Quinly that we have to control. And yeah, dealing with thousands of parts on 3D printers is not very common. So we've had to come up with workflows that help optimize that. Yeah, so we'll just go through like an example flow. You can see the UI in the corner right now. We'll make it bigger. And then we'll go back through and review each of the UI areas, talk about some new features that we've been adding, and also listening to your feedback. And if you have any questions about the UI or ideas on what to include, definitely post them in chat. And I mean, the point of the live stream is so that we can discuss them live. So yeah, really looking forward to see that. Should we dive in?
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Excited.
cool. All right, let me switch over to the UI view. Ooh,
Beautiful.
different look. Cool. So this UI, we've actually worked very, very closely with a couple of our customers. We gathered feedback. We looked at different use cases. It's actually quite interesting just how many things people are using Quinly for.
Yeah.
And taking all of that feedback and trying to come up with a standard workflow that kind of works for everyone. So even though I think like with all of our technology, in the end, it looks very simple and streamlined, there's actually a lot of consideration that's gone into each of these things. So yeah, here's the main kind of files screen. And it just looks like a place to keep your G-code files, which is pretty much what it is. But there are actually a couple really handy features that we've built into it that is, again, based on our experience running both manual and then an automated print farm, and also talking to everyone about how they run their things. So I think as we go through this, I'd love to hear how everyone currently sorts their production G codes. Like if you use 3D printing for any sort of production, how do you sort your G code? I mean, I'll start off by saying,
Yeah.
without this, I tend to just throw all G codes into a single folder
Yeah.
and have like 5 different naming schemes and lose files all the time.
I think that's everyone, to be honest. Like, for sure, mine, like, I sometimes tried to rename them to have like specific names, but then they start getting really, really long. Like, I'll have like the nozzle size and like the type of material and like different settings that I changed just so I could remember which one had what file changes to them and stuff. So I don't know. And they're all in the same folder too. It's just like one big folder with a bunch of random names.
Yeah, and we've like we having run so many printers, we've tried using alternative like external solutions like Google Drive, for example, and even still. So we've been running automated printers now for a year. We've probably restructured the Google Drive 4 times since we started using it, and part of it is just that there's so many people. Because your print capacity is so high, there's so much G code that has to be going through the machines that it does start to get really unwieldy. So one of the big new features is the file management system we're building into the Quinly UI. So right now, it's built to be very simple to use and to display information at a glance. So let's go through the flow. We're going to go through a flow of uploading and sending 3 different types of parts all at the same time to a printer. So to start, let me just make the UI big again. Ooh, there we go. Just getting used to the hotkeys. So we're going to go through this flow, and to start, all you do is hit the big Upload Files button. You'll pick, let's say in this example, we're doing an electronics box, and it's got 3 different components to it. It's got 2 sides and a top. You send that, and then those will be uploaded into your all files directory. And yeah, that's uploading files. Pretty simple.
There we go.
I like that you can upload 3 files at the same time.
Yes, that is
Yes,
something
that's
that
very
is not
useful.
present in the current UI, but is a very easy and obvious feature. Again, it's
Yeah.
like, it's one of those things where you only realize how annoying it is when you have to like print so many G codes at once.
That's so true. For like the new, for like the scripts I'm making, I think that's gonna be super useful
Yeah.
because we're basically trying to make it so that I wrote a script so we can have multiple types of G code that is failing, but in different ways. So if we can do like 50 at a time, that'd be awesome, and then we could just film them all and not having to like do one by one 50 files for G-code would be awesome.
Yeah. So actually, Adam in the chat says every G code he uses is just a one-off. So if he wants
Oh
to do
my
it again,
God.
he'll reslice.
Of course.
That honestly probably like spend so much time.
Yeah.
Having all your G code files that you know work just saved in a place that you know, it's gonna save a lot of time.
I can relate to that. Honestly, sometimes I will prefer to reslice a model than go and try to find the old G code I used for it. But not with this, because your G code and your job submission, as I'll show you in a second, are actually now in the same spot. So yeah, like you mentioned, I had an assembly where I was printing 14 different parts that all had to fit together, and just being able to upload them all together. And then the cool thing we're adding is you'll be able to select multiple files like this and send them all to the queue at once. So I picked all my electronics enclosure pieces, and then I'm gonna hit add to queue, and you'll see now you'll see all the items that you selected, and then you can choose their quantities all in one screen. Before, in our kind of current UI, the way you do it is one at a time. And again, this is something that seems obvious in retrospect, but at the time when you're not dealing with as many parts, throwing things into the queue one at a time, you'll be like, it takes me 2 seconds. Yeah. But now that you're actually thinking at production levels, having a screen like this definitely helps.
I really like that it's actually a pop-up now. Like before it isn't. So like I feel like I always forget if I have to actually add multiple quantities, and I'll just like send one and be like, oh, I actually needed more than one.
Yeah.
So I like that it actually reminds me to add the quantities.
Yeah, it's like, here's what you picked, here are the quantities. And then, okay, so I'll just send it to queue. So there's also a confirmation that things got sent, which was definitely some feedback that we've gotten. It's like, how do I know whether things are sending? Because 3D printers are a little bit slow, and so you want to know whether things actually got sent and are just taking a moment to respond or not. So you'll see this throughout the UI. There's like all these confirmation messages.
Yeah, actually, we got some messages in chat. People really like this.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I mean, it was literally, and Tavi's not here, but it was like designed very closely with you guys, like with everyone in the Discord.
Yeah, and actually, like I think some of the people in chat had something to say about the UI.
Yeah, Kevin Schaefer, who's always in the chat. We interviewed him and said, what do you like? What do you dislike? How do you want this to work? So yeah, we sent these to the queue, and this is a new queue page. And so the queue is now going to be on its own page. Right now, it's got some pretty basic information about the different jobs that you put into the queue. And one thing that's different about how we handle print jobs versus other software is a print job is not simply like a G-code file. It's got all these additional properties you can add to it. With the single printer, the only one that really comes into play is things like the quantity. But as we'll talk about later, when you've got many printers, you can also give attributes such as material or color, and then the queue will automatically assign those to particular printers. But this is just, we're looking at the version where you've got one printer. And of course, this is the first iteration. I think before I go any further, I would welcome feedback on if there's any additional information you would like to see about jobs that you've queued up.
Yeah, actually, there's one question in the chat here from Thornhill. He was actually asking about the file system, asking about the columns, if you can sort them.
Yes, all the columns for everything will be sortable. So your upload dates, we'll go back again later. But yeah, all the columns that you see, they'll all be sortable.
Yeah, you can sort by favorite too.
Yes, yeah, we'll be bringing that over. So I sent those 3 jobs. So each one of these is a job, even though in total it's 28 parts. They're 3 print jobs. And so we see we've got these two banked up in the queue, and the first one that we sent has actually already been picked up by the machine. So this was something, again, based on your feedback, was to make it more clear what things are printing and what things are still banked in the queue. And so on the right-hand side, you get a mini preview of what the printer your Quinly is on is doing. And we see that the side A job has been picked up and is in progress. And then over here in the queue, you'll have a list of everything else you've submitted. And one thing we're adding is the ability to drag and drop to rearrange priority in the queue. And I guess I can talk about a bit of a story with, we were talking to, I guess we'll call him Gordon. He was working in the automotive space and he was running a print lab. And we had pretty extensive discussions with him about how disruptive it was to do emergency prints. And so what he had done was, he's doing this for work, so he has a set schedule every day when he can be in the lab. And what he had done was he had designed these batches of parts that end every, I think it was 4, 8, 12, and 24 hours.
That makes sense.
But pretty frequently, someone from the manufacturing floor is like, a jig just broke and I need a new part really fast.
Of course they did.
Yeah. And he's in the middle of this like 24-hour batched print job.
Yeah.
And now he has to make the decision. Well, there are two things. He has to cancel the current print job, and because it's such a big batch, he loses a lot of filament. But the reason he has to batch in the first place is because scheduling around his limited time is very difficult. And so he's come up with this perfect schedule where things are ending and they're completely designed around his day. But as soon as something like an emergency part comes in and disrupts it, now he's got this weird, he's got this unexpected print time, and then it doesn't fit perfectly, and now he either has to create downtime to match everything back up to his schedule, or I don't know what else he could do really. It just screws up this delicate schedule, and a lot of people we've spoken to, like that run Etsy stores, also have set up print jobs in this schedule, like in a very rigid schedule based around their availability.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I feel like I kind of had something similar to that happen to me while I was doing filming, because I wasn't stopped by the queued up parts. I was stopped by how long each print would be, and I needed to film the time lapses for one of our launches. And I felt like similar to that way that I had to plan my day around when I could film, because I had to physically be there. If I just needed the printer and like the camera would just take the pictures, I wouldn't need to be there. But because of that, I had to like plan around all these like different letters to be printed just for that.
Yeah, I think I just feel like having to cancel a 19-hour print that was going great, just like, that would just kill me inside. I just wouldn't be able to deal with that.
So yeah, that's how it works now, and the way Quinly and this queue system is the solution to that is, you now no longer really have to have a very strict schedule. You don't really need a schedule at all, based around your availability. What you can do now, let's say we had a bunch of parts queued up, and we just had an emergency part suddenly, I'd be able to take that part, drag it to the top, and then decide, do I let my current print finish and just have the emergency part print right after? Or do I cancel the current print? The printer will automatically pick up the emergency print that you've just thrown to the top of the queue. And then do I just reschedule the current print, immediately after? And the nice thing is, because Quinly works 24/7, the printer will not be waiting for you to push it back into that schedule that you had designed for it, because it will just keep going through and automatically pick up the next job. And so you can constantly be rearranging this queue based on what you need. And again, because it's 24/7, you don't have to worry about, you know, breaking a delicate schedule that's based around your time. Yeah. So that has, for me, has been something that's really, really useful about Quinly, because I find myself having very little time to interact with the printers that I own. So just being able to say, okay, here's 15 parts and I'll just come pick them up. I have 5 minutes tonight to come and grab them. It's super convenient.
There's a good comment here from Adam. He's saying, can you mark each G code afterwards, or like rate them afterwards?
That is, we'll hold on to that, because that is a really, really good comment, and we'll talk about this. But yeah, that would be a brilliant thing to have, especially when we start talking about how this expands to multiple printers and multiple users. But I think
we've also got people talking about that too.
Okay, good. Just hold on, like wait like 15 minutes. We're gonna get into all of this, because that is like, this is the very first step, baby steps. I think we've talked about the queue page enough. You can also hit this button up top just to add more files. That takes you back to the files page. But for now, we're going to go into the printer overview. So these first 2 pages are actually all that you'll ever need to run the machine. But we also have, because everyone, including myself, wants to see what the printer is actually doing, we've created this printer overview page. And I should mention, this is what it looks like for one printer, but we'll talk about many printers later. So just continuing the story, we've submitted the 3 jobs. The printer is currently printing side A of our electronics enclosure, and then you can see there's a mini queue preview with a bit less information over here on the side that'll just tell you what's coming up next. And then again, something that people have been mentioning quite a lot is we'll have a list of things that have actually completed. Yeah, and we can talk about that a bit. Yeah, but the printer overview page is essentially like, what is my printer doing at any given point in time? You've got live temperatures, which is pretty standard. The new live stream will be here as well. But it will be coming out an update earlier before this, so you will see it in the old UI as well as this one. This is how it will look in the new one. And then you can also, we've sort of partitioned the page differently than it used to be. So now here's your kind of at a glance look, everything you need to know if the printer is doing well. And then there is this G-code console tab, which is if you need to, for any reason, directly interact with the printer, maybe something is going weird or wrong, or something's not right with the G-code, you'll actually be able to see the raw serial output over the network. So it'll read it from the printer, transmit it to you, and you'll be able to see it in this G-code console. You'll also be able to send anything to the printer manually, so commands. And what's interesting about this is you can do it while it's printing as well. So if you need to, I don't know, I actually don't know. I guess if you wanted to set a different Z offset or move C while it was printing, or change your temperatures while it was printing, you could do it through this. You can also change the temperatures up here as well.
Actually, just a question to make the
Sure.
UI all full screen.
Is it? Oh, sorry, I made it really small. Oh, I'm sorry about that. Thank you for reminding it. Okay, here we go.
Yeah, keep it big.
Sorry. Yes. I'll recap. Yeah, so this is your at a glance. So you've got what the printer is doing, the printer name. You'll have status tags as well for the printer. On the right, you've got what's next, and on the bottom, you've got what it's completed. So yeah, completed jobs came about was the initial thought was, oh, you don't really need a completed jobs because you'll see what parts come out. But if you're
Yeah.
really running the printer remotely, maybe you won't even be there to see what parts come out. So it'll be useful kind of to account what printed against what you sent.
Yeah. I think I actually like that too for a different reason.
Oh, yeah?
I feel like I forget what I print, like the name of the files sometimes, and I'm like, I guess I'll never know what I printed, and I
Yeah.
can't reuse them because I don't remember what it's called.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's true. And that we can go back into the talk about it with that comment about rating, but um, in the future we'll add a thing where you can select previous jobs and just replay them.
I like that.
Yeah, just because it's convenient. You might have like a spool of filament that can print exactly 40 of these things, and so you want to just send 40 at a time.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and sorry, so just to recap, because it was small before, at the bottom, this is where the live stream will end up, and then you've got live temperatures. This time elapsed will be moved eventually, and we'll talk about why. But it's just the uptime for the printer. And then again, the G-code console, so you can type anything and manually send it to the printer. And you can also see the raw serial communication back to Quinly here in case anything is going wrong. And then the settings page in our mockup here does not have too many things, but we'll talk about some of the things that'll show up here as well. Yeah, so basically, in terms of sending those jobs, all you really have to do at this point is sit here, watch them print, and wait for them to be done. And in the meantime, you can just go back and send more files to the queue. Let me see. Did I miss any salient points here? No, I don't think so.
We had a good question from Thornhill asking about, so for those of us that need to keep inventory, will the completed jobs be exportable to a spreadsheet?
Oh,
that's a really good question. I think that is a really good idea to just have it spit them out as a CSV, especially because the completed jobs can also be annotated. So like if you canceled a job partway through, it'll show up as a canceled job, and it'll show you how many had been printed before it was canceled. Because remember, jobs are not just a single item, but can have a quantity of things. So if you printed, for example, 3 out of 5 and then canceled on the fourth one, we would account that 3 had been printed and then that 2 had been canceled or removed from the queue. But that is a really great idea to just have it export this as a CSV.
Yeah, and I think actually on the left side of the UI there's some grayed out buttons. So this may be something that can appear when those buttons become non-gray.
Right. Yes.
The suspense is killing them.
The suspense. Speaking of suspense, we have added all the function buttons here, suspend, abort, and pause, and those kind of things will show up down here, and they will have helpful tooltips that explain exactly how they work, because one of the most frequent comments that we get is suspend is really confusing, and it can be confusing with a single printer, but when you have a print farm, it's actually really, really useful. Yeah, and I guess we can use that to go and talk about how this system will work, how this workflow works with multiple printers. Which
transition, by the way, suspense.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Come on.
Yeah, that was not planned.
That was a Linus type of segue.
Suspend. Tunnel bear. Something Linus would say.
Yes.
Yeah, so the suspend function, you'll see when you click it, it'll tag the printer suspend in progress. And this is useful for if you want to take printers down for maintenance. And let's get into yeah, multiple printers, future plans, and maintenance. I think while we're talking about that, it'd be awesome to hear any more ideas from the chat about what they'd like to see here in the future. But yeah, so this is the first iteration of the UI, and then you can see over here on the side there are a bunch of grayed out features, and these will come into play more for professional use of this software, where you're not just running one printer as a production system, but you've actually got multiple printers connected up to the same Quinly dashboard, and now you're using Quinly to run your print farm for you. So what should we start with? Should we start with, let's ask chat what chat wants us to talk about. Should we talk about...
What are they the most excited about?
Yeah, multiple printers first, or should we talk about maintenance features?
I guess the first thing that comes up is from Thornhill again. He's just so glad to be able to have a hand in coming up with
features. Yeah.
And like, honestly, if you guys don't say what you want, we don't know that you want it.
Yeah.
So it's not really complaining. It's more just like saying what you want.
Yeah. Tell us, because we have our own print farm in here, and we learn a lot from that. But our use cases are like some of the use cases, some of the uses that people are using Quinly for right now, I can't have even imagined. So it's really useful to know what you're using it for and how you're using it, and what kind of blocks are coming up in your work process, so that we can try to streamline it in this. Should we talk about maintenance then for multiple printers?
Well, we've actually got, well, one question before that is Kevin's asking about the pause feature.
That will be added. It's just not in this mock-up, but we'll add a pause, especially now that there's a live cam as well. One thing that was a problem with pause was sometimes they can cause your blobs and stuff for prints to get messed up. So we spent a lot of time working on and tuning pause so that it wouldn't accidentally damage or ruin your prints. So by the time this UI is launched, it's most likely going to be put back in here. But we'll see. It has to go under a lot of testing.
Yeah, well, he was mentioning that it could confuse people when Suspend is next to it. So
yeah. Yeah.
We'll have some clear distinctions there.
Yeah, the little icon thing, and that'll help.
Yes, and the explanation.
That will be very helpful.
Yeah, everyone else wants to see multiple printers.
Okay.
We'll talk about that.
We'll talk about that. We don't have UI mocked up for it yet, but we actually, on our old UI, we've used it to, in our internal software, we've used it to control all the production printers. And the way that will work is pretty interesting. So the only thing that really changes in terms of your workflow when you add machines is going to be the monitoring. The files in queue actually don't really change at all. So if you're just looking to use Quinly for production, going from one printer to many printers makes almost no difference, which I think is one of the coolest features about Quinly. Is it's essentially, if you get a second printer and you connect it up, it's just as if you can print twice as fast. It's not as if you have to manage twice as many machines.
That makes sense.
So the files will look pretty much the same, but when you have multiple machines, this is what we had in our production system, is each machine now, when you think about it, can be loaded with different colors and different materials. So when you're submitting the jobs to a machine or to the queue, not only will you have to pick the quantity, but you'll have to pick things like the color and material, so that when you send things, it'll actually be assigned to the correct printer.
That's cool.
Yeah, that was we started developing with that. Actually, now over a year ago. But then we had to kind of work backwards because most people buy one machine at a time and grow from there.
There's a question actually a few minutes ago, actually like right in the beginning of the stream, I saved it for now. So let's say you have 4 printers and you send off like 3 jobs. Will it distribute it to all the printers, or will just one take it on?
That's a good question for now. So when we do add the multiple printers functionality into Quinly, the way it does it is it'll distribute it among machines, but it's a little bit conditional. So you would submit if all 4 jobs were in the same color and the same material, and all your printers were in that material, then it would just distribute it amongst them. However, if you had 2 printers that were black PLA, 2 printers that were white PLA, and then 4 jobs that were white PLA, those jobs would get sent only to those 2 printers that you have connected with white. So it'll distribute them, but conditionally. And then things that we're also looking at adding, which we weren't looking at when we first built this, was, as you know, next week we'll be launching Quinly for Prusa, and Prusas and Enders have different size beds. So we'll have to also consider now if a print is too big for a certain printer that's connected to your farm, we have to make sure it gets allocated correctly.
That makes sense.
Yeah. So there's a lot of like smart distribution in there, and then you'll also get the option just to assign to specific printers. Because as we've also found, sometimes that's the way you want to work, especially if you're prototyping things. You might have in your farm a printer that's exclusively for prototypes, and you want to send all the test G codes to that machine. You'll be able to do that too. And then once you know it's production ready, you can submit it without that condition so that it gets distributed among your production printers.
Cool. We got some more questions coming out about a lot of questions.
That's good.
So differing between the basic plan and then the paid features.
Sure. It's still a little bit in flux. Basically, if you get Quinlys now, you'll end up getting grandfathered into a lot of these features. But the main difference between basic and pro is if you're using printers kind of to manufacture for a hobby, that will always be free. And the idea is just to make manufacturing accessible to anyone. So that basic plan will always be free. Each instance of Quinly will be able to connect up to an individual printer, and you'll be able to control those printers each with their own files and queue and overview. The idea behind Pro is for people who are running serious print farms and need that time saving that comes from pulling everything into a single place in a single UI. So Pro features will be things like having a global files directory, having a single queue that makes smart decisions about what printers to distribute to, having ways of marking files so that other users in your company or at your print farm are able to see what's what. And the rating the files is going back to that comment is actually a really interesting idea. I think that could be a way. I had initially thought about just tagging files, so you can have a file tagged as prototype file or tagged as production ready file, but rating files is also a really good way of doing it, especially with prototypes. You have like, oh, it fails like 3 out of 5 times, so you'll rate it really low. But tangent aside, going back to the difference between the Pro and Basic is Basic will run your machine 24/7 and you can queue up jobs. Pro is more for farm management and more for these like 3D printing and manufacturing for business, where you have a lot of printers, you might have a lot of asynchronous users, and you need to really like keep your uptime up. And I guess we can go into analytics with that. So this analytics page is mainly going to be built around multi-machine. And what we're integrating into Quinly, and actually something Leah's working on, is automated quality control features. So Leah's specifically working on the PyCam and vision aspects of this. But what we would like Quinly, and what we're building towards with Quinly, is the ability to be able to look at your whole farm at a glance and see what's going well and what's not going well and what needs attention. And Quinly is also going to be 24/7 monitoring your prints and your print farm to make sure that all the printers are performing optimally. And if they start deviating on this analytics page, you'll see certain warnings. And then, yeah, why don't we actually talk about what the plan is with the live stream and warnings. Yeah, do you want to
sure.
take it? I've talked long enough.
That's fair. I mean, right now we're trying to create a machine learning model basically that will identify different types of failures that are quite common in 3D printing. And there's a lot of different types of failures. So we're trying to simulate them right now, basically. So my main kind of thing that I'm doing at the moment is building these scripts so that it kind of messes with the G code that you already sliced, and then it allows you to either like make it spaghetti or like make it layer shift randomly within whatever layer, so that we have a lot of different types of data at different layers with different I guess flags that you can give more options to what exactly the failure will be. And we'd really like it if, like, once I'm done all these scripts, if you guys wanted to try and film some of these failures, if you have extra filament, I guess.
Yeah.
And if you wanted to like play around with the scripts and see if you can get some data for us to give us a more robust model, that'd be awesome. And yeah, basically once we have all that data, we'll be able to tag it and then run it through some machine learning scripts, and hopefully we'll have a nice model by the end. We're always going to need more data, like it's never going to stop. You always need to improve the models. So I think it's going to be really helpful for like when we actually want to monitor a print farm, things like that. So yeah.
Yeah, I guess in summary, Leah's working on a way of taking good G code and turning it into bad, and then
yeah, basically
we're then running all of that, and it's randomized too,
Yeah.
which is the really cool thing. And we're just generating dozens and dozens and dozens of these failure conditions, and we'll be running them on our print farm in-house just to collect data for a very robust model. And I know there are things out there like Spaghetti Detective, and there's actually a new project that just came up. But the way that they're deployed is very limited by hardware. And so the plan we have for building our model will be a little bit different. And one of the amazing things about Quinly is because it's automated, it lets us collect and because the printers with Quinly themselves are very, very repeatable, it lets us collect very repeatable data under and gives us the ability to control the conditions very specifically. So that's one of the things that Leah's been working on, is just how we can gather that, and then once that is ready, it will actually be available in the basic version of the software, so that if your printer detects some kind of failure going on, there are certain failure conditions that can either stop your machine, pause your machine, just send you a warning. And then we plan to extend that for more professional use, where if you have 50 machines, it's difficult to hire 50 eyeballs to watch them 24/7. So you would connect these 50 machines to a monitoring system, and the monitoring system will actually be a little bit smarter than just checking for failures, but it will also be preventative. So we'll be looking at things like deviation over time. Let's say you're printing a 100 part job, and for some reason the parts towards the end are starting to look different, and then referencing that model and seeing, okay, what could be going wrong. And so now you can imagine having a print farm with a ton of machines, and then every so often you get a notification. Printer 3 might have a Bowden tube issue because it's seeing inconsistent extrusion or something like that. Or printer 5 is having adhesion problems, check the heaters. Displaying all of that in the dashboard so that you don't have to manually go through, check, and diagnose every single printer. And in a lot of cases, I think, to be realistic, it's not going to know exactly what is going wrong, but just the ability to have something monitoring your prints 24/7 and detecting any sort of variation and making aware of any sort of variation will save you a lot of time in the long run.
For sure.
Yeah, I would say a lot of printer maintenance is very reactive, where something big goes wrong when you're not looking, and then you have to figure out why it went wrong. Whereas the intention with this is Quinly will be your eyes and ears and voltmeters and will look for anomalies and notify you of them, so that when you do have time to go in and repair your machines, you'll know exactly which ones to go to. Yeah, because it is actually, when running a farm, even a small one, it is a massive time sink to have things go unexpectedly wrong.
For sure.
And I think one of the really cool things is if something goes really wrong and it auto detects that it needs to shut this printer down, Quinly can reroute the jobs to other machines so that your entire production is not affected by this. And I think that's something that's really, really unique about what we're doing. Is very few manufacturing systems in general outside of 3D printing can even do something like that. Yeah, so that's kind of where we're going with this, with multi-printers in the future.
Question from Kevin is there a possibility of having your PyCam take a picture of your finished print and have kind of like a gallery of your most recent prints?
That'd be cool.
Yeah, that's
like
part of the history area is going to be obviously just an accounting of all the parts that have been printed. But yes, that is something that's I think we've been talking about in Discord for a little while now, is having snapshots of the print outcomes, because in order to have automated, quality control, you need to take those pictures. So I don't see why we wouldn't just display them with each print, or I don't know, depending on how fancy things get, even have like a time lapse next to each print that in your completed jobs or something like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sure you could use those.
Send me all that data.
You can choose to send Leah all of that stuff to make the model more robust.
Maybe we have some sort of opt-in kind of program thing.
Yes. Yes, please.
It wants all the data.
Yeah, it's definitely. I think people who run more than 2 or 3 machines will definitely be able to relate to just how difficult it is to make any sort of schedule or plan when you're not watching them constantly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why the Quinly will prevent that, and also keep you from losing downtime, and that's part of the reason we've done a lot of costing on the parts that come off 3D printers using Quinly, and that's part of the reason they're so inexpensive, is that when you cut out labor, like whenever a human has to touch a printer or a plastic part, the cost skyrockets. But when you're using something like Quinly, it's literally only the machine cost and the Quinly cost, which comes out to like cents an hour, versus dozens of dollars an hour, especially in most cases it's engineers who are running these machines. Like I think for our Prusa kit, it's something like 5 cents an hour for a year. I don't know if
That's how
that
it works out. I think it's something like that, yeah. It's
Yeah.
on the order of like single cents per hour.
Yeah, like if you
I think it is 5 cents actually.
it's not it's not generally possible to hire anyone that will work for that little
Yes.
willingly at least. But yeah, so it becomes super cost effective just to have all of these, and it also makes it so easy to scale. Like if you're just want to use 3D printers to run and manufacture for your business, you won't even have to necessarily go into any of these printer screens. You would just have to make sure that either you or your technical person has prepared good G code, select it, and then just send it to the queue to get produced. And then Quinly does all the monitoring and management for you. And then of course, printers always break down, so you'll have to come in every so often to see whether doing maintenance. I think it was Prusa that said like their printer under like lifespan or something, they say every 800 hours, or their printer lasts 800 hours and then you have to replace the nozzle.
Weird way of phrasing
Yeah.
that.
I wouldn't say the printer lasts I would say the nozzle lasts 800 hours. But
not very good marketing on their part.
Yeah, but Prusas are very reliable, so I'm looking forward to having Quinly on Prusa. And I guess one of the other things that's very unique about Quinly is the ability, as we add more and more printers onto Quinly, the ability to mix and match them within your farm and not have to worry about like formatting things differently. Quinly, when you put together a farm, and we've already implemented this actually, is it will detect what printer is connected and it will alter its behavior based on what machine it's sending a file to. So it might process G code specifically for Prusa versus for an Ender. And it might prevent like parts that are too big from going to specific printers because it knows, okay, this part exceeds the volume of this machine, can only be printed on a CR10 or something like that.
That makes sense.
Yeah, actually Robert has, so he says he has 5 lull spots, a bunch of Prusa minis, and then Prusa Mark III for medium parts. And so I can see like he'd really benefit from having
just that auto detection and assignment. Yeah, absolutely. I think that like once you cut out the part, so many people wrap things into, oh well, I have to go to my printer anyway. Once you cut that out, you start to see these like really crazy inefficiencies in running 3D printers. And even stuff like that, just having different size beds, you'll be like, oh, well, I know what part has to go where. But it does take thinking and therefore planning to actually run a print farm with different size beds. And it just depends where that time is dispersed. So this takes it out completely.
He actually says, okay, so if I've got 100 Prusa minis and I want to make them all work, y'all might work with me to make it happen.
Yeah, I absolutely. If you have 100 Prusa minis and want to outfit them with Quinly, like just contact us because we'll be throwing beta versions of our software at you left and right if you want to get that set up. I think Prusa Mini is on our list, as well as I think we're looking at, well, so Prusa Mark III is launching, and then we're looking currently at CR10, the Mini, and one printer I don't think I can announce. And we're also looking at the artillery series of machines as well. Yeah, the idea being that you can like build your farm out of these different sized production blocks, basically, like have a bunch of minis if you print a bunch of small parts, and maybe have like one CR10 for really big parts, and as long as you connect them all up, the Quinly will do all the boring file management and job management for you.
People do want to know about timelines.
Timelines is a good question. So this UI is going into beta at the beginning of July. Or well, it'll be built at the beginning of July, and then of course it has to undergo a lot of testing before and after, because it is a big change. And then next week, sorry, I'm working backwards here, but next week is when we're planning to release the PyCam version for the old UI. And then in terms of specific timelines, so Prusa will be launching next week and then delivering a few weeks after that. And of course, we plan to coincide the delivery of the Prusas with the launch of the new UI. So if you get a Prusa kit, you'll be getting the new UI with it. Leah's project on the machine learning model is we've got all the foundational research essentially done for it, and now we're starting to. This week we'll be scaling up the data collection and the image collection in-house. That one is harder to put a time on because machine learning is very unpredictable.
Yes, and it just takes a long time to tag everything.
Yeah, but we're coming up with smart ways of doing that. Yeah, and then over the course of the summer, we're going to be putting the Quinly UI online so that you can access it from anywhere without having to set up a VPN, and that includes the foundational things for accounts, and then that will build into having many accounts to a single farm, and also we'll start rolling in towards the end of the summer. We'll be rolling in, actually the work starts immediately after the UI releases this July, but we'll be rolling in those features for for professional use, which is connecting many printers into a single farm, into a single dashboard. And I should state that those features for controlling many printers from a single dashboard have actually all been built already, and we've used it in-house since last December, I think, before we moved on to Quinly, because 3DQ itself used to manufacture like 3x3 production pods, so you were controlling 9 printers from that. And so we've run that with 45 machines, 45 machines on our print farm in-house. And now it's just a matter of rolling all of that code into the new UI and into the new Quinly. And so that's the plan with that, and that'll be occurring basically from the launch of the UI towards over the course of the summer.
That makes sense.
Yeah, it's good to mention that the Quinly software was built like around the idea of scalability. So having 50 printers at your control within a single dashboard, that's something that's quite complicated to do, but we've set the framework for it already.
Yeah, and that's actually part of the reason the current UI looks the way it does. Not this that I'm showing you, but the one that our customers presently have are actually the reason elements are so small and there's a lot of blank space is because it was used at a time to manage 45 machines. And so now we've designed something for single machine, and then we'll be pulling in all that work that we've done for farm management into this, and for job distribution, like assigning colors and materials to printers and having jobs get automatically distributed to printers. That's actually already been developed. It just needs to be rolled in and tested for release, for wide release through the Quinly software.
Cool. We got another kind of someone. Robert's also really excited for like remote access. So
yeah,
that's
that'll be very, very, very convenient. Yeah, just being able to go onto a website rather than locally controlling it.
Yeah, well, he's got a good use case. He says he has like 20 printers somewhere, 10 printers somewhere else.
Right.
He wants to be
Oh.
able just to like sit on his dashboard and
That's fair.
control everything.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, and that's, I think a lot of people are set up that way. Like the universities especially tend to have multiple print labs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can imagine building something on top of that where you could send certain prints to certain groups of machines. Although university networks tend to be really
Aggressive.
really difficult to set things up for.
True.
Any note if people will be able to beta test this software, or if we're just going to release it?
Oh yeah, join our Discord. If you want to beta test anything, join the Discord and message me, or I guess we could also even create like an opt-in for the beta. But yeah, we've sent, some people have requested a specific feature that we were working on, and then we've sent them almost like a personal build of that so that they could help us test it. Definitely open to getting community feedback and beta contribution. Yeah, we like to work really, really closely with you guys. Because oftentimes it's, the more eyes on it, the more problems people point out, and yeah.
Yeah, it's great. Well, when we use the software, we kind of know how to use it, but for people to have to learn it for the first time, it's a totally different story.
Yeah, there's some very obvious things that you can miss having stared at the same thing for like 1,000 hours.
Yeah. Right, yeah, we have another, this one's going to be fun. What about resin printers?
Ooh, resin printers. We don't have an auto release technology for resin printers yet, but actually a really interesting idea that's been brought up to me by Jack and I think by Aaron, who are their Quinly owners, was actually rolling in the ability to connect non-automated systems to the farm, or to connect things like the CR30, which can be automated because of the belt, and pulling that in and just having everything managed in one spot. That is a super interesting idea. I don't know how that would fit. It would depend on like how many of our customers have setups like that.
Well, he was the same guy that asked about resin. He was saying that even without automation, the software seems to be like very powerful by itself.
Cool. Yeah. Yeah, good.
Thornhill Woodworks is also thinking about resin too for this.
Okay, okay. That'd be interesting. Yeah, just connect all printers into the single dashboard. That could be really cool. Yeah. I guess just even the drive, having one drive for all your printers would be really, really convenient. Oh, one thing I should mention too that people have been asking for is the ability to download files back from the drive. We've now added that, or that will be in the new UI. Yeah, especially if you do a full Pi refresh, just makes it easier to grab all your files off and then re-upload them later. Any other questions?
Nothing that comes up, but I think one thing that we should talk about is today we had a nice video. Actually, got a really detailed review from Chris's Basement.
Yeah.
So if you guys maybe have heard of him, he does really technical, detailed reviews of products. And he got our DIY kit, printed it in red. Looks really good. He got it looping. If you haven't checked out his video yet, you should definitely go take a look because it's really well done.
Yeah, actually, his video is like a really good guide on how to put together the both Quinly kits. It's 41 minutes long, which is super unexpected.
Surprised me. I was thinking maybe
his videos are quite quick usually.
Yeah. No, but he didn't really miss anything when doing the setup.
Yeah.
If firmware is anything you guys are unfamiliar with, then it's like the perfect guide.
I thought that was so useful because I didn't know how to do that, and I was like
Yeah.
looking at it and I was like, wow, this is actually like
Yeah,
I saw them do it once and I kind of forgot how they did it. So
we'll be probably sending people to his video
yeah,
if they need help. Yeah, definitely go to his channel and show him some love. Yeah, it's super exciting to have a review out. Another review.
Oh yeah, we just got some more feedback saying the quality of life improvements are great.
Yes, quality of life is
people are loving them.
cool. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm really happy to hear. I think a lot of the reason you guys like it is because a lot of the design came from you guys, working with you and getting. I think Tavi, who's the like software project manager.
He's in the chat.
Tavi's in the chat?
Tavi's in the chat.
Okay, good. She has like pages of feedback that she collected and did like a couple hours of interviews with people.
That's so nice though.
Yeah. And I mean everyone's so generous with their time and feedback. It's been super helpful.
Kevin still kind of wants to do a massive, easy to read print farm.
Oh my God. I don't know. I don't know if on a moral level I can support that.
I just saw one of their more recent printers and it looks like Among Us.
Yeah, the Among Us printer.
Yeah.
Oh my God. Yeah, if you guys have any more questions, post them in chat now. Otherwise, I think probably a good time to wrap up.
You can tell them about our giveaway.
Yes. Yeah, actually, while we wait for the last questions to come in, go to our Instagram, 3DQ Systems. We're doing a filament giveaway. So if you like free filament, definitely go check out the post. Yeah, and enter to win free filament.
Yeah, silver Prusa.
Yes, it's actually it's nice filament too. Silver Prusa is
yeah,
like nice quality, pretty filament.
There we go.
And maybe would it just be good just to do a quick overview from the UI, just a summary?
Sure. For those of you who didn't join at the beginning, the main new screen is actually we've split the files in the queue, so now your files you'll have a place to.
Oh, make sure you're on the big screen.
Oh yeah. Thank you. Okay, let me go.
Screen.
I'm sorry. Okay, let me actually just. I could probably go and start from the beginning.
That's
okay.
Fair, yeah.
I'll just give the full overview recap for those of you who joined a little bit late and may have missed it. This is the new UI. And yeah, so the first screen that we've added here is the file screen, and you'll actually be able to upload all your G-codes here, see information about them, sort them by name, size, upload date, favorite, and you'll be able to create folders as well, so that you can sort parts into projects. And the reason that's useful is a lot of projects have multiple components. So you can upload your parts, and I'm just going to upload these electronics box components. And so now I've seen them, they show up in here in my all files. I'm not going to sort them, but if I want to send them to production, we've made it really, really easy. All you do is you select each file, and then you can just hit add to queue. And then you get a summary of the different parts you picked. You can pick different quantities for them. In the multi-printer version, you'd even pick materials and colors and other parameters like that. Then you just hit send to queue. And then you can either go back and send more files, or you can go and view the queue. On the right, we have a small preview of what your printer is currently doing. So it's already picked up the side A for this box, and it's printing the first of 5. And in this main screen, you can see the other 2 print jobs that we sent that haven't been picked up yet. And yeah, one of the quality of life improvements people have asked for is the ability to drag and drop to rearrange queue priorities. So that is here now. So if you've got emergency parts, you can just drag them all the way to the top and just cut ahead of everything else. But you don't have to worry about your later parts getting printed because Quinly will eventually get to them. Yeah, and so from here, you can either add more files, and that'll just take you back, or you can delete queued items, or you can go to the printer overview, which is just at a glance details about what your printer is doing, what it's done, what's coming up next. So kind of more detailed, you see the electronics enclosure. You see that for this printer, and you see like a less detailed version of the queue, what's coming up. This is also really important for multi-printers because each of those printers will have a little bit different queue depending on what jobs are distributed to it. And then you also have a completed job summary. And then again, we're talking about how in the future that's going to be expanded so that you can do some better inventory or accounting of your parts. That'll be in this grayed out history area. And then you've just got some controls, suspend, abort the print, and we've added little tooltips so that you know exactly what something will do before clicking on it. You can change your temperatures live. You've got the live feed, which is just a placeholder for now, but eventually, well, it'll have the webcam or PyCam functionality from our old UI will end up in here. And then in a later update, Leah's failure detection is going to show up here where it just says time elapsed. And if you really want to dig in, you've got the G-code console, so you can send strings of text directly to your printer. Hopefully you'll be sending G-code and not something that will make Marlon freak out. And you can also see raw information coming back from the printer in case it's behaving weirdly. Yeah, this is similar to Pronterface, but again, you've now pulled it into Quinly, and yeah, can use it at a distance from your printer remotely. And then the settings page, right now you can just rename your printer, but we're planning, oh, we didn't even talk about this.
We missed a part.
Yeah.
Sorry, guys.
Sorry, but on the settings page, here will be things like your Z offset and E-steps and configuration options like that for each printer. Yeah, I think that's a pretty quick overview. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was a very good summary.
That's what'll be in the next update, and then there'll be further updates with more features. Among Us.
Get it out of your head.
There's Among Us in our completed job. Oh no. Yes. Oh, I guess there's also account management too, for when we go onto like remote access onto a web server. We're thinking of including things like a couple fun stats, like the number of hours you've been printing with Quinly, number of parts. Eventually that'll actually get pulled into the analytics page with more advanced functionality. And then there's just account, and then for the, I guess this is, yeah, just the like billing for when if you upgrade to the professional, like full farm management plan. But if you're on free, you don't have to put that stuff in there.
Cool.
Yeah. These are the more interesting pages.
That's true. No one wants to hear about billing.
Yeah. Resetting passwords. It's not that interesting. But it is good to have in case you forget your password.
Yes, that's true.
Yeah. just basic account stuff. And also this top bar, I guess you can see it in the account page when new updates are available, and notifications like that will show up here. Yeah.
That's cool.
Awesome. Anything else, Stephen, before I log out?
Yeah, well, we got a few comments just
Okay.
to end things off.
Sure.
Kevin saying you're all killing it at 3D.
Oh, Kevin's too nice.
From Robert, like, give yourselves a pat on the back. It's great. Yeah, that's good stuff. We've been working towards this for quite a while, so
Yeah.
we're hoping it really is a huge improvement.
Yeah, makes things easier for sure.
Yeah. You know, a quick question from Jeremy Owens. What about the ability to clear the bed after a failed print?
That's a good question. That would be a button that shows up here along with pause.
That's very useful.
Yeah, that is actually in our software sprint backlog is to add this. So that will actually show up here.
Cool.
You know, we were also talking with Thornhill about the potential for like triggering the reset early.
Without cooling down, you mean?
Yeah, without cooling down. Like, say you just pop the part off and it's at 30, you don't want to wait for 29.
Oh,
That
yeah,
kind of thing.
fair. Skip reset.
Yeah.
I guess that would make sense, yeah. Or you could potentially do it via the G-code console as well. Yeah, but if you can do it in the G-code console, adding a button for it is very easy. But yeah, I think that's also actually in our feature requests backlog.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, check out our Instagram. Enter to win free filament. There's like, what can...
Who doesn't want free
Who
filament?
doesn't want
Come
free
on.
filament? It's easy. Yeah, and let us know like what you're most excited for. Join our Discord, because without the help from Discord, the UI would not look the way it does. And people generally seem to think it looks very good, and I would say it looks very good too. Super excited about it. Yeah, and help us test and come up with more ideas.
For sure.
And feedback, and just in general talk about 3D printing. Everyone in there does automated 3D printing or does 3D printing for some sort of production. So just in general, it's a good, cool community to be a part of. Yeah, make sure to follow on Insta and like this video. If you want other people to see it, please like it.
Smash that like button,
Smash
guys.
the like button. Yeah, and subscribe on YouTube, because planning to do Prusa next week. And I think that's going to be a very exciting stream that you won't want to miss. So that being said, I think
Thanks for watching, guys.
And this time we won't cut off
That
the
was
stream early.
our bad last time.
Okay, we'll just fade to black.
Yeah.
How's that?